Welcome on in. Belly up, have a seat, grab a drink as we talk some Wingman Fantasy Football. Welcome on into another edition of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Furley, and as always, I'd like to thank all of you, or any of you who may be watching or listening to today's show. It is Wednesday, December 4th. This is episode 206, and it's time to go inside the league. In this show, we will dedicate all the talk to the Wingman Fantasy Football League, where we will close the books on Week 13 and transition into a very pivotal and important Week 14. We'll do that as we go back in time for the Week 13 rewind. We'll check in on the updated standings, take a gander at our Goose-O-Meter, and we judge our manager's moves in this week's best and worst, where we cover the best and worst manager decisions for Week 13 that might have improved their chances for a playoff or might have cost them a chance to get in the tournament. And then we'll see if we've added any pups to the kennel in this week's sad puppies. Then we will transition. We'll look forward into Week 14 in the Wingman Fantasy Football League, where we will check on the activity of our waiver wire, see who's on top of the newest power rankings, and we'll go over this week's matchups in the Wingman Fantasy Football League and see what it's going to take to get into the 2025 playoffs.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs.
But before we do any of that, I'd like to make sure that everybody is in the room.
Wingmen assemble!
All right, guys, let's get right into it. Let's go back in time for the Week 13 rewind.
Let's go back! Week 13 rewind.
All right, we're going to take a look back at our Week 13 matchups and see how they fared. All right, our first game we're going to go over real quick here is Reggie's Lionites, who came into Week 13 at a very sad 2-10, up against Paul's Cubit Rage at 6-6 and still fighting for a playoff chance here. Unfortunately, man, we had a major upset this week.
Average Joe's wins in a shocking upset.
I feel shocked.
Reggie's Lionites gets his third win of the season, scoring 83.02 points and defeating Paul's Cubit Rage, who scored a measly, this is going to hurt so bad, 46.78 points. This was the lowest score of the week. Not only was it the lowest score of the week at 46.78 points, this is our lowest score of the season and could not come at a worse time. Unfortunately for Paul's Cubit Rage, he has now lost 2 games in a row. On to our next game here, we have Jimerson's Red Sox Nation coming in at 4-8, up against Ben's Go Gators at 7-5 after a huge win last week to improve his chances to make the playoffs. However, once again, we had another upset.
Average Joe's wins in a shocking upset.
I feel shocked.
In another low-scoring battle, Red Sox Nation took this one down 86.02 to 73.32. Ben's Go Gators now falls to 7-6 and fighting for his playoff life. Our next game here is Jeff's Always Right coming in at 7-5 up against Big Bro Ken's the Fantastics, who came in at 6-6. And neither of these teams had clinched a playoff spot as of yet, and a win would go very far in their chances to do this. But Jeff's Always Right took this one down 83.04 to 79.05, a less than a 4-point differential for Always Right. This ends a 3-game losing streak for Always Right and is going to make an uphill battle for the Fantastics to make his way into the playoffs, although he is not out of it yet. All right, our next game is also another battle of the bros with younger bro Brian's under 40 coming in at 8-4 atop the standings, up against Nick's Waddle Away at 7-5. This is our only matchup this week where both teams had winning records. But the little bro took it and stays on top of the standings, 85.34 to 81.09. This one was just over a 4-point differential as well. So these households were nip and tuck all the way until the end here. Brian's under 40 now wins 2 games in a row, and Waddle Away was honestly one of the hottest teams here as this now snaps his 4-game winning streak. All right, now let's get into some games that a little more of a deeper dive here, starting off with Amazing Spidey coming at 5-7, a last gasp effort to try and keep his playoff hopes alive, up against Alex as they took our jobs, who came in at 6-6. And this was a monster scoring game for both of our competitors as they combined for approximately 239 points total here. And we had another upset this week.
Average Joe's wins in a shocking upset.
As Michael's Amazing Spidey gets the season-saving victory, taking down Alex as they took our jobs 136.43 to 102.76. This is the 5th time this year that Amazing Spidey has eclipsed the 100 mark, and the 2nd time he's had more than 130 points total. But Alex that took our job is on a great streak himself, despite being 2-2 over the last 4, as he has 4 straight games of over 99 points. Unfortunately, he has now lost 2 games in a row. All right, let's see what players helped Amazing Spidey get this much-needed victory. Starting off with A.J. Brown, who scored 30.2 points.
He's heating up.
In Kamani, Vidal Sassoon came through with 20.2 points. Rookie running back R.J. Harvey at 19.7. Nico Collins contributed with 19 points. Draco Mofo, or Drake May,
It's gonna be May.
came through with 20.48 points. And Brees Lightning Hall contributed with 14.6 points. Amazing Spidey had no duds in his starting lineup, and he did have one player on his bench who actually would have improved his score just a bit, as Marcus Mariota finished with 25.26 points on the bench. Amazing Spidey made it through the week without any major injuries. All right, Alex, they took our jobs. Like we said, 4 straight weeks of over 99 points, had 102 this week, had a great week, just went up against one of the highest scoring teams in the league. So let's see what players helped him get to that strong score, as tiebreakers are going to be very important coming down the stretch here, so every point will matter. DeAndre Swift on Black Friday had 20.3 points, and Jason Michael Myers had 20.3 points. Guys, you can't believe this here. This kicker has scored over 14 points in 4 consecutive games. He is rolling on those train tracks. Another Myers on his team, Jacoby Myers, came through with 18.3 points.
He's heating up.
And a bounce-back week for Kyron Williams, had 13.1 points.
Release the Kraken!
All right, time to look at the duds in the lineup for Alex as they took our job. Stephon Diggs for the 2nd straight week is a dud at 4.1 points. Man, Alex had tons of players on his bench with better days here. I don't know if it would have been enough to overtake this differential here, but nonetheless, he had a pair of commanders have great days. Terry McLaurin at 19.1 points, Zach Ertz at 15.6, and Darius Slayton at 13.1 on Monday night. All 3 of these players were on his bench. Now for his injuries, nothing major as of yet, but Kyron Williams did leave the game early on this past Sunday, but he did also return and then scored a touchdown after he returned. So I'm not sure of his availability going forward. We're going to consider him fine, but nonetheless, keep an eye on Kyron Williams' status. All right, our next game on the docket has Katie's King George coming in at 6-6, up against Corey's May Daddy 2s, who came in at 7-5. This was another big battle here, as a win by May Daddy 2s would clinch a playoff spot, and a loss from King George might just be the nail in the coffin. But man, this was projected to be our highest scoring game, and it was our highest scoring game, a combined score of over 252 points, and most of that went to Katie's King George, who scored 146.74 to a very strong day for May Daddy 2s, who had 105.94. This ends a 4-game losing streak. It was a 3-game losing streak, for Katie's King George, and she had the highest score of the week. This is our highest scoring team and our third highest scoring team of the week. But when you go against a juggernaut like Katie's King George Scadaboo, you are going to be on the losing end of this one. Not only was Corey's May Daddy Doos the highest scoring loser, but he was also part of the biggest blowout of the week at an over 40-point differential.
You got knocked the fuck out, man!
Like I said, a great week this week in terms of points, but not in terms of result, as May Daddy 2's was the highest scoring loser.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
May Daddy 2's has been alternating losses and wins since week 5, and let's see if he gets the win next week to keep that trend going. However, let's look at some players that helped Katie's King George get to this unbelievable score, starting off with the great Bijan.
Pardon me, would you have any Grey Poupon?
Bijan Robinson had 27.8 points.
He's on fire!
The Seattle defense, oh my, at 27.5 points. And Brock Austin Bowers.
Yeah, baby!
Had 20.3 points. And honestly, one of the plays of the week in terms of her lineup decisions, she stuck with Kyle Monungai, came through with 19 points. He has now scored 10 or more points in 5 of the last 7 games. Cortland Sutton came through this week with 14.7, and Travis Kelce had 13 points. And he's had 10 points or more in 6 of his last 8 games. You can imagine with a game like this, there were no duds in her starting lineup. And the only player of note on her bench was Tyler Algier with 12.5 points, but he did not outscore anybody in her starting lineup. She did have one major injury, although we're not sure if it's going to affect his availability for week 14. Justin Herbert is dealing with a broken hand, has already had surgery on that hand. At this point, he's expected to play, but we're definitely going to want to monitor the situation here.
Oh, no.
All right, moving over to May Daddy 2's. Nothing to shake a stick out here. He went with Jamison Williams off of the Goose from last week, and he overperformed at 23.9 points. He made the lineup change at the last minute, sitting Brock Purdy, putting in Bryce Young, and that was the right move as Bryce Young had 22.54 points. And King Derrick Henry had 16.9 points.
He's on fire!
Jamar Chase had 14.5, and the LA Charger defense came through with 10.5. Again, he wasn't going to win this game no matter what here, but he did have a couple of duds who let him down in the receiving room here. DK Metcalf at 4.7 points. He's been less than 8 points for 4 of the last 5 games, and I think this was a sabotage when he made the trade acquisition for DK Metcalf. And this one's a little odd to say, as Jackson Smith-Njigba literally has been the best player in fantasy, at least in the receiver position, came through this first dud of the year at 3.3 points. And he had a lot of quarterback options. We mentioned Bryce Young overperforming. He also had Tyrod Taylor on his bench at 21.28 points. But he did make it through the week without any major injuries in what will be a nearly must-win going into week 14, so he will be at full strength. On to our last game. This is our closest game of the week and the closest game of our season. Bernie's Team B came in at 7-5 up against Andrew's Crazy Fish, who finally got back to 500 at 6-6. And my gosh, guys, this is just so painful to go over here. Team B was projected at over a 19-point lead here in projections, and we almost had the upset. But unfortunately here, we had Andrew's Crazy Fish lose this game by 0.04 points, 4/100ths of a point. The final score was 81.99 to 81.95. And now this is 4 wins in a row for Bernie's Team B. I was curious, and I thought my curiosity was correct here. This is not our closest differential in the league's history. We had a game in 2011 where a team won by 0.02 points, 2/100ths of a point differential. So this is minuscule, but there's actually been a closer result in our league's history. All right, Jared Goff was a top performer this week for Bernie's Team B, coming through at 20.64 points. And Jonathan Taylor's getting back to business.
As long as I got my suit and tie.
as he returned to a top performer at 13.1 points, and the Buffalo defense came through with 13.25 points. One of the reasons this game was so close, as he did have a major dud on Thanksgiving Day. Amon-Ra St. Brown left early in the first quarter, giving Bernie's team B the goose. There was no one on his bench who could have helped him get this increase this victory here, but he did have the injury we mentioned, as Amon-Ra St. Brown dealing with that ankle injury. They play later today on Thursday, and at this point, he is listed as questionable. I think it's probably about a 40% chance that he plays, but we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Uh-oh.
All right, now for Crazy Fish here. Again, not a high score overall, but so close. He's going to be second-guessing himself over and over and over again of what he could have done differently to get the upset victory. All right, let's see what players did perform that he put in, starting off with Dak Prescott at 22.8 points.
He's on fire!
Prescott has scored 22 or more points in 7 of his last 9 games. And Trey McBride of Frankenstein.
Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Trey McBride at 18.2 points, and he scored 12 points or more in 7 straight games. And the Jacksonville defense came through with 13.75 points, and they've scored 10 or more points in 3 of the last 4 games. So this was a battle of defenses, as both teams' defense scored over 13 points. Now this is where he's going to start kicking himself. He had a couple duds in his lineup. Kenneth Gainwell at 5.5 points, and the disappearing act from Troy Franklin in the second half at 3.1 points. He did have one strong player on his bench. It would have been the boldest of moves to put him in the lineup. Blake Corum came through with 14.1 points on the bench. As for injuries here, Woody Marks left the game for a brief period of time, did come back in. However, he's been listed as questionable going into week 14, so he's going to need all hands on deck. Woody Marks is a little banged up.
Uh-oh.
All right, guys. Now that we've gone through the games here, let's take a look at the updated standings. All right, we have Brian's under 40 still on top here at 9-4, but we had a move here. Jeff's always right had a big jump from 5th place back up to 2nd place, ahead of May Daddy 2s, who fell down 2 spots to 4. Bernie's team B holds on to the 3rd position here at 8-5. Katie's King George, a huge jump from 9 to 4, a 5-position jump with only a week left in the season is a huge move. Ben's Go Gators fell from 4 to 6, but still in that playoff line. Nick's Waddle Away falls a spot from 6 to 7. They Took Our Jobs despite the loss stays at 8. Amazing Spidey with a healthy jump from 12 to 9. Cubert's Rage, this one's tough, was at the bottom of the playoff line, now falls down to 10th place at 6 and 7. Crazy Fish falls 1 spot to 11th. Fantastics 1 spot to 12th. Red Sox stays steady at 13 and Lionized at 14. We did have 3 teams who did clinch themselves a playoff berth. Congratulations to Brian under 40. Jeff's always right, and Bernie's team B. All right, now it's time to take a look at our updated Goose-O-Meter.
I'm just goosing along.
Oh my gosh, guys, we are at DEFCON 5. We are red alert. We are now up to 20 gooses. This week we added 1 goose. As we mentioned, Team B had Amon-Ra St. Brown, who left the game early. This is now the 2nd goose for Bernie's Team B, but May Daddy 2s is still on top of the goose leaderboard as he holds on to 4 gooses in his starting lineup this week. All right, guys, it's time to get back into our newest segment. It's time for this week's best and worst for week 13.
Hey, guys. Did you find it? Nope. But check this out.
Wingman Fantasy Football League. Best manager moves and worst manager moves. In this week's best and worst. All right, Jones, ready, guys? Let's do this.
Stick to the pledge.
You
Stick to the plan.
are the absolute worst!
All right, our best manager this week in terms of their decision goes to Katie's King George Scattaboo. After 9 weeks into the season, you were sitting pretty at 6-3, but unfortunate, the echoes of the past late losing streaks reared their ugly heads once again as you were on a 3-game losing streak coming into week 13 and sitting on the outside looking in of the playoff picture. A lesser manager may have panicked in such circumstances, and other managers may have decided to chase Christian Kirk's points from week 12, sit Travis Kelce after he scored his lowest scoring output since week 3, but you stuck to your guns, playing both Monangai and Kelce ahead of Quentin Johnson and Christian Kirk. Those decisions alone yield you a 22-point differential, and more importantly, avoided the Christian Kirk goose. Sure, you would have won this game anyway, as you won this one by more than 40 points, but with this monster score of over 146 points, you jumped 4 managers in the total points for the year. Huge in terms of tiebreakers. The monster score in week 13 all but assures you a playoff berth, even with a loss in week 14. Steady is the hand that comes to terms with the lessons it's had to learn. Well done, Katie's King George, as you are our best manager for week 13. Unfortunately, guys, it is now time to let you know who is our worst manager for week 13. This one is weird. This one is tough because last week he was our best manager, and this week he's on the other end of the spectrum. Andrew's Crazy Fish. Oh, this is going to hurt to say here. With an 0-5 start to the year, he finally climbed up to a 500 record, reaching 6-6 after 12 weeks. You've been decimated with injuries at the wide receiver position all year long, but piecing it together, getting win after win with streamers and bench players. You had an opportunity this week to get your first round pick, Brian Thomas Jr., back into your lineup for week 13. However, he was listed as questionable all week, and you had the tough call of playing a Thursday or Friday night player ahead of the official word. So you went with Andre Yusevich ahead of Brian Thomas Jr., and although it wasn't pretty, Yusevich came through with a late TD grab, and it looked like the right call. However, as Sunday came around and it was clear that Brian Thomas would be officially active, you still had one more tough decision. Would you play Thomas or stick with the Broncos' leading receiver of Troy Franklin? Although both players did underperform, Thomas would end up outscoring Franklin 3.8 points to 3.1, a seemingly negligible differential of 0.7 points. But with this painful loss to Team B this past week by 0.04 points, those 0.7 of a point would have made all of the difference. Of course, hindsight is 20/20, but this decision may haunt Crazy Fish as a crash course into the consolation bracket seems inevitable. But not a lock. You still have one more week to earn your way back into the best manager ranks here with an epic tale to tell all that follow, as you are still mathematically alive to earn a playoff berth in 2025. All right, guys, let's go see if we have any sad puppies for this week.
Wingman Fantasy Football. Sad puppies.
All right, good news here. Since Amazing Spidey did not lose this week, there's been no one mathematically eliminated from the playoffs who weren't already. Once again, we have 2 players. We have Red Sox Nation, who is mathematically out, as is Lionized. We now have 3 teams who have secured their playoff spot, which means we have 9 teams battling for the last 4 playoff spots going into week 14. And with that, let's transition into week 14 and see how these teams might improve their teams in these desperate matchups. This week on the waiver wire, our last chance to improve our teams going into this week 14 was a very light week this week. We only had 4 waiver bids for 3 NFL players, and only 1 NFL player received multiple bids. The highest price acquisition this week was Adonai Mitchell at a $5 bid, went to Cubert's Rage. The Green Bay defense went to Nick's Waddle away for $1, outbidding Go Gators $0, and Isaac Tesla went to Amazing Spidey for a $0 bid. All right, guys, well, let's see how good these teams are that are going to be facing this week. Let's take a look at our updated power rankings.
By the power of Grayskull.
I'm living in it, no one man should have all that power.
Wingman Power Rankings.
All right, the power rankings have been updated, and Team B remains on top, as does I'll Take the Under 40 and May Daddy 2s. And always right. Man, nothing's really moved. The top, the top 5 are all the same in terms of power rankings, but this bottom half is where we have some movement here, as Katie's King George, just like she did in the standings, jumps up 5 spots, this time being ranked 11th, now being ranked number 6. Red Sox Nation jumps up huge there from 12 to 7, so both those managers move up 5 spots. Fantastic falls a spot to 8. Go Gators falls a spot. Waddle Away falls a spot. Crazy Fish falls 1 spot. Amazing Spidey moves up 1. Hubert's Rage is the biggest faller this week, falling from 6 to 13, a 7 position drop. That's hard to do in the power rankings, especially this late in the year. Just to show you how bad that 46-point score this week was a huge detriment to the how we look at the quality of Hubert's Rage. Still has a week to turn that around, but that is our updated power rankings. Wrong button. That's what we do here. We push the wrong button. All right, guys, it is now time to see who's playing who in this week's matchups.
This week's matchup.
All right, heading into this week, we're going to see who has a chance to make some playoff moves.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs.
All right, it starts with this. If you can get to 8 wins, you will be guaranteed a spot. So those teams that are 7 and 6, if you win, you are in. There will be at least one 7 and 7 team that does make our playoffs, and as many as 3 7 and 7 teams could earn their way in, depending on how these games come out this week. There could be as many as 8 teams tied at 7 and 7 for those final 4 playoff spots. All right, let's get into the first matchup here. We have Michael's Amazing Spidey at 6 and 7, coming off a huge day at 136 points, up against Katie's King George, our best manager from last week, who had 146 points, is now at 7 and 6. Let's in terms of what they need to do, Amazing Spidey, if he loses, he is out. If he wins, he is still going to need some help. Katie's King George, if she wins, she is in. If she loses, she still has a pretty good chance to make the playoffs, but she will need a little bit of help or at least get a strong score to hold off some tie-breaking chasing managers. All right, going into this game, they are both projected at 88 points, and they both have quarterback concerns. With Drake May on bye this week, Amazing Spidey is going to be looking for a streaming quarterback, but Katie's King George is not out of the woods as she has Justin Herbert on Monday night, making this very tough decision as she's going to have to wait to make that call. She may have to jump with a streamer if she's uncomfortable with the likelihood of Herbert playing or not. The best player in this matchup is on Katie's King George, Bijan Robinson by far. While we have some young running backs who are picking up the pace here is RJ Harvey for Amazing Spidey. The question marks here in terms of who they are playing on their flex spots, I'm going with Deebo Samuel at the moment, but I'm honestly looking for an opportunity to switch. I may try and put Devin Neal in, or I have Mike Evans on my IR if something changes, although I really am afraid to play Evans his first game back. She has Kyle Monungai, who we mentioned had 10 or more points in whatever I said for the last 6 games. Travis Kelce has been solid, and Brock Bowers. She's going with 2 tight ends this week, but they've both been pretty good. This one's going to be close, guys. Again, Amazing Spidey needs to win, and even then he's not guaranteed a spot. Katie's King George, a win will guarantee her spot, and a loss, she is still in decent shape, but not a guarantee. On to our next game here. We have Paul's Cubert Rage at 6 and 7, up against Jeff's Always Right at 8 and 5, who has already clinched a playoff spot here. Going into this week, Paul's Cubert Rage is, if he loses, he is out. He's the same situation as Amazing Spidey. A loss and he's out, and a win, he's still going to need some help, as that 46-point really hurt his total points for the year. So he's going to need some guys to really underperform on the other 6 and 7 and 7 and 6 teams, or he's going to have a monster bounce back game. At the moment here, Jeff's Always Right, we mentioned, has already clinched a playoff spot. And if he gets a win here, he will clinch a number 2 seed. Let me double check something real quick. And Jeff's Always Right is he has a chance to get the number 1 seed and a first round bye with a win. a loss by Brian's under 40 and outscoring Brian's under 40 by 35 points. So he is playing for a potential bye this week, but he has a great chance, a win, and he will guarantee himself a division-winning payout. So a win, he's getting money, and a win with some help, and he might get a first-round bye. The matchup here right now is Always Right is projected with a 95 points to Cubert's Rage 80 points, so a 15-point spread going in here. And we have Jaden Daniels in the starting lineup right now for Cubert's Rage. Not sure if he's going to play or not. Listed as questionable, has been practicing. If he cannot go with Jaden Daniels, if he's not going to play, he's got Aaron Rodgers on his bench, and that's it at quarterback. So he's dicey in terms of his quarterback play. Both guys are listed as questionable. They both may play or not, so it's going to be pretty tough going here. The best player in this game, in this matchup, I would say is Puka Nacua and or Josh Jacobs on Always Right, Never Wrong, while the best player on Cubert's Rage here, man, he's going to have a tough game. He's got T. Higgins, who may not play, Dalton Kincaid, who may not play, but if he does, that is going to be the difference maker. He's only projected at 7.5 points. Kincaid has a chance to destroy that. It's not looking good for Cubert's Rage in terms of the projection here, but of course we have seen crazier things. All right, our next game on the docket here is Ben's Go Gators at 7-6 versus Nick's Waddle Way, also at 7-6. All right, listen up, guys. Like I said before, if you get to 8 wins, you are in. So the winner of this game will clinch themselves a playoff berth. But they are so far apart in points. The way I look at it here, Ben will earn himself a spot with a win, but even if he loses, he can get in there if certain teams score the right combination of points. He can backdoor his way in at 7-7. The same cannot be said for Nick's Waddle Away, as he's our second lowest scoring team in the league this year at 7-6. A win will get him in, but a loss will all but eliminate him, as it'll be pretty hard to outscore teams by 80 points and lose. So he's pretty much win and he's in, lose and he is out. The projection here right now is very close. They're both projected at 90 points. And let's see. Top players here. Go Gators had, whoa, man. We're going to find out on Thursday how this is going to look for Waddle Away, as he's got his pair of Cowboys receivers, George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, going later tonight. If they can come through with a monster score, it's going to set them up very well. If they get duds, it's going to be really hard. The only player who can really help get him back on track if those players fail is Travis Etienne. He's a little up and down, but he has a chance for a big game. On the other side here, we've got James Cook is the mainstay. Javonte Williams also in that Thursday night game. And Aaron Jones, who is listed as questionable right now on Go Gators. So right now they're both projected at 90 points a pop, but you're gonna get a big inclination of how this is gonna go with this Thursday night outcome, with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens on one side and Javonte Williams on the other. Our next game here is Andrew's Crazy Fish off that just demoralizing loss last week against Corey's May Daddy 2s. May Daddy 2s is at 7-6, so a win and he is in. And Andrew's Crazy Fish at 6-7, a loss, he is out. If he wins, he's still going to need some help, as we're going to have a potential 8-way tie at 7-7. So just keep that in mind here. So he's going to have to win to have a chance, but even then he's going to need help. Corey May Daddy 2, he is similar to King George Scadaboo. They're actually very close in points. So a win, he's in, but a loss, he still has a chance to get in there with a points tiebreaker. So this will be interesting coming down the stretch. Going into this game, this one has our biggest projected differential as a 30-point projected lead right now for May Daddy 2s, but he is going with a streaming quarterback. He is putting in Tyrod Taylor. He has a choice between, as his other two quarterbacks are on bye, Bryce Young and Brock Purdy on bye, so he's going with Tyrod Taylor against Miami. And Crazy Fish has Dak Prescott going on Thursday night. Another game that will be determined on Thursday night to at least give you a trend of how it's going to go, as Dak Prescott is the best player on Crazy Fish, and he's going to need him to overperform. Crazy Fish also has Trey McBride on his team, his best positional player. But at the moment, unless he changes his lineup, it looks like he's sticking with Troy Franklin, Kenneth Gainwell, and Andre Yusevich. I assume he's going to make some changes there and put Brian Thomas in his lineup. Drake London is also on his bench, listed as questionable, does have a projected points right now. So he might make a wholesale change here and take out all of his starters to put in some backups guys here, or bench players, as they are really the better players on his bench. He has Brian Thomas and Drake London on his bench at the moment. So this will be interesting here. And then Corey's Made Out of Two says almost everyone on his team is on bye this week. He could potentially play Michael Wilson if Marvin Harrison is out once again, but he'd have to sit DK Metcalf. Honestly, I probably would. What's the matchup here? Playing against the Rams, so not a great matchup, but they are at home. So his tough call is going to be DK Metcalf versus Michael Wilson, and it's going to be made even tougher if Marvin Harrison Jr. is out this week. So good luck to a Crazy Fish. It doesn't look good on paper here, but like I said, we've seen many things before here that don't line up to what we think is going to happen ahead of time. On to our next game. We have Alex's They Took Our Jobs up against I'll Take the Under 40. Brian's under 40 is 9-4. A win or an always right loss will give him the number 1 seed in a first round bye. He's already clinched a divisional payout, as at worst he can tie with Bernie's Team B, but he's got the tiebreaker in divisional record. So congratulations, Brian under 40. You have clinched yourself a payout, and you can earn yourself a first round bye. So nothing to play here for. Stuff to play for as a first round bye, but in terms of money, you are locked in. Now for Alice, They Took Our Jobs at 6 and 7, similar to Amazing Spidey, Paul's Cubit Rage, and Andrew's Crazy Fish. A loss, and he is out. A win, he will still need help, as there's so many range here of points, and it's going to come down to the points for that last playoff spot. Let's see what players, and right now this projection is also tied at 90, just around 97 points a pop here. We've got Bo Nix versus Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is on They Took Our Jobs. Jameer Gibbs on Thursday night. Another Thursday night player who's really going to set the tone for this matchup here. And They Took Our Jobs has seen enough. He's putting Terry McLaurin into his starting lineup after a strong play last week. And he's got the best kicker in the league over the last 4 weeks, Jason Myers. Can he do it again? They're playing in the Dome in Atlanta. A very strong chance for his kicker to have another strong day. All right, so what do we got here? We've got, in terms of I'll Take the Under 40, he's got a couple tough receivers in his starting lineup with Darnell Mooney and Roma Dunze, but he does have Devon the Man Achane and Ashton Genty as his running backs. Can they combine beat Kyron Williams and Jameer Gibbs? This is going to be close, guys. I'm actually leaning towards They Took Our Jobs if I'm looking at the moment, as he has a lot more guys who have bigger ceilings, but we will just have to wait and see. That Jameer Gibbs Thursday night will be a big-time tone setter in this matchup. Our next game here is Lion Eyes versus Red Sox Nation. Both these guys are unfortunately eliminated from the playoffs, so they're just working on seeding here for the consolation bracket, as Red Sox Nation could get all the way up to 8th place if he gets a win and all the appropriate teams lose any, because he's got a decent amount of points for his so he can earn his way actually into the upper bracket, but being that our 8th team is an automatic loss, as we have a 7-team playoff, he would be in the upper bracket, but officially would not be in the playoffs, but he would have a chance to play for 5th place if things go well with a win here to get in that upper bracket. All right, so we're not going to get too much time on this game, as neither of these teams can make the playoffs here. On Lion Eyes, we got Stafford, Chase Brown, Abuka, and Godwin as his top players, and Kinshawn Junkins as his top 5, and Red Sox Nation has Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley, Rashee Rice, Jaylen Warren, and Michael Pittman. They are projected to be about the same, and that's with an empty spot on Red Sox Nation. Does he have somebody he can put in there? Oh, he's got tons of guys he can put in. He's got Dallas Goedert, Parker Washington, Hollywood Brown, Ollie Gordon. He's got a ton of guys, and probably he's waiting on Amari Hampton to be activated from the IR. That's what he's waiting on here. All right, our last game here is Bernie's Team B against the Fantastics here. Bernie's Team B is our point leader for the year at 8-5. The best he can do here is get to 9-5. He's pretty much locked into being a number 3 seed, as he's got the most points in the league by a good 70-point spread here. So he doesn't have the tiebreaker to get the division, but he has tiebreaker against all wild card teams. So he is pretty much locked in to the 3 seed unless he has like a 50-point day in this last week here. So he's locked into the playoffs for sure. A payout most likely as the top point getter, although he's going to have to show up a little bit. But he's playing against the Fantastics, another 6-7 team. Fantastic loses, he is out. He wins, he will need some help. And the projection on here has Bernie's Team B with a 10-point lead on paper. He's got Jared Goff on Thursday night in a smash play, does Team B. Jonathan Taylor against Jacksonville. Can he rebound? He's got Amon-Ra St. Brown in his lineup at the moment. We're not sure if he's going to play or not. And he's sticking with Kenneth Walker and Romeo Doubs. Now for players on the Fantastics who needs this win to even have a chance. He's got Jalen Hurts, who's been a part of my rant a couple times here. Can he rebound and have a huge day this time? There's always a chance. Jalen Hurts is a 30-point ceiling guy at he can do that over and over again. We've seen it. So that's going to be the big battle here. The quarterbacks, Hurts versus Goff. We've got Bucky Irving for the Tampa Bay Bucks on the Fantastics. And then we have Justin Jefferson and Chris Olave. These guys have a wide range of outcomes. Justin Jefferson has really been our biggest dud all year. Let's see if he can help Fantastics in this last-ditch effort to make the playoffs. Good luck to everyone there. I know you guys are battling for the playoffs. So am I. We're all looking for the same things. We need about the same 4 teams to lose, and we need to outscore, teams between 10 and 40 points, depending on who they are. So I just want to wish everyone good luck out there. With that being said, I want to thank you guys for joining me for this or another edition of Inside the League. So thanks for joining us here. I know this is more dedicated to our league members, but they have been sticking with us through thick and thin. And as we transition into a more universal show, I do want to give them one dedicated show to help follow along with their outcomes here. All right, guys. With that being said, you can find all of our audio feeds on your favorite podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio, and the Odyssey app. When you find it, if you want to find us on those platforms, just search Wingman the League, and we'll come to the top of your search. And while you're there, guys, give us a 5-star rating. Hit that follow tab and leave a comment, and we'll appreciate that as well. If you want to see our show, we've got our beautiful bar room decorated for Christmas with our helmet wall on the back, our Christmas tree back there, and our little dancing Santa over there as well. You can go to our YouTube channel at wingmanfantasyfootball.com/YouTube or youtube.com/@wingmanfantasyfootball. When you head over there, guys, do me the favor, hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment, and we'll get you into our next mailbag segment. With that being said, guys, we'll have a couple more shows before the Sunday games kick off. So may your glasses be full, your mugs stay frosty, and we will see you next time.